The story of U-47, a German submarine, and its commander, Günther Prien, is one of the most compelling narratives of World War II. It is a tale of audacity, skill, and strategic importance that captured the imagination of the German public and sent shockwaves through the British Admiralty. U-47's significance goes beyond the technical aspects of the submarine itself. It lies in the symbolic and psychological impact it had during the early years of the war. The sinking of the British battleship HMS Royal Oak at Scapa Flow marked a turning point in naval warfare, demonstrating the lethal capabilities of the German U-boat fleet and signaling the vulnerability of the British Navy, which had long been considered invincible. U-47's early impact and the psychological war. In the early stages of World War II, Germany was in a precarious position. The country was isolated diplomatically and faced the prospect of a prolonged conflict against the British Empire and its allies. The Kriegsmarine, German Navy, was significantly outmatched by the Royal Navy, both in terms of numbers and resources. In this context, the U-boat fleet became a critical asset for Germany, offering a way to level the playing field by targeting the supply lines and naval forces of the British. U-47, under the command of the then relatively unknown Günther Prien, quickly became one of the most celebrated submarines of the German fleet. Prien was a charismatic and daring leader, well suited to the clandestine and high-risk nature of submarine warfare. The crew of U-47, inspired by their commander's boldness, undertook missions that would have seemed impossible to most. The mission that truly cemented U-47's place in history was its infiltration of Scapa Flow, the British naval base in the Orkney Islands, on the night of October 13 to 14, 1939. Scapa Flow was considered one of the most secure naval bases in the world, protected by block ships, submarine nets, and natural barriers. For U-47 to penetrate these defenses and deliver a decisive blow was a feat of extraordinary skill and bravery. The Scapa Flow attack, strategic and symbolic significance. The sinking of HMS Royal Oak, a symbol of British naval power, had both immediate and long-lasting effects on the course of the war. Strategically, the attack was a devastating blow to the Royal Navy, as it lost a capital ship and hundreds of men in a matter of minutes. The loss of the Royal Oak forced the British to re-evaluate their naval defenses and led to a significant reshuffling of their fleet to prevent such an event from happening again. The attack also exposed weaknesses in British naval strategy, particularly in terms of how it defended its ships at anchor, which had previously been considered relatively safe from submarine attack. Symbolically, the successful mission of U-47 struck at the heart of British morale. The Royal Navy had long been a source of national pride for Britain, with a history of dominance on the seas that dated back centuries. The idea that a German submarine could penetrate the defenses of one of its most important naval bases and sink a battleship was shocking and unsettling. It challenged the perception of British invincibility and underscored the seriousness of the German threat. For Germany, the attack was a propaganda triumph. Günther Prien was hailed as a national hero, and U-47 became a symbol of German ingenuity and military prowess. The success of the mission was widely publicized, and Prien's portrait appeared in newspapers and on posters across Germany. The psychological impact of the Scapa Flow attack was immense, boosting the morale of the German people and the Kriegsmarine, while sowing doubt and fear among the British public and military leadership. U-47 and the U-boat campaign. The sinking of the Royal Oak was just the beginning of U-47's wartime career. Over the course of its service, U-47 undertook numerous patrols in the Atlantic, targeting Allied shipping and contributing to the broader U-boat campaign aimed at disrupting Britain's supply lines. The U-boat campaign, often referred to as the Battle of the Atlantic, was a critical component of Germany's strategy to isolate Britain and force it into submission. U-47 and other U-boats operated in wolf packs, coordinated groups of submarines that attacked convoys of merchant ships en route to Britain. This strategy was designed to overwhelm the convoy's defenses and inflict maximum damage. U-47 was particularly successful in this regard, sinking a significant tonnage of Allied shipping and demonstrating the effectiveness of the Wolfpack tactic. The U-boat campaign was not without its risks, however. As the war progressed, the Allies developed more effective anti-submarine warfare tactics, including the use of sonar, depth charges, and aircraft patrols. U-47's continued success in this increasingly hostile environment was a testament to the skill of its commander and crew. However, the dangers of the U-boat campaign were ever present, and U-47, like many other submarines, faced the constant threat of being detected and destroyed. Legacy and end of U-47. The legacy of U-47 is intertwined with the broader history of the U-boat campaign and the Battle of the Atlantic. While the submarine's early successes were significant, the tide of the war gradually turned against Germany. The Allies' increasing mastery of anti-submarine warfare, combined with the sheer scale of the resources they could bring to bear, meant that the U-boat threat was eventually contained and neutralized. U-47 itself met a mysterious end. In March 1941, during its 10th patrol, U-47 disappeared without a trace in the North Atlantic. The exact circumstances of its loss remain unknown, with various theories suggesting it might have been sunk by depth charges from a British warship or by mechanical failure. The loss of U-47 was a blow to the Kriegsmarine and marked the end of one of the most storied submarines of the war. Despite its disappearance, the legacy of U-47 lived on. The submarine's early exploits, particularly the Scapa Flow attack, continued to be celebrated in Germany as examples of daring and heroism. U-47's impact on the war was profound, demonstrating the effectiveness of the U-boat as a weapon of war and the vulnerability of even the most well-defended naval bases. U-47 in the broader context of submarine warfare. The story of U-47 is not just about one submarine, but about the role of submarines in World War II and their impact on naval warfare. The success of U-47 underscored the strategic value of submarines, particularly in the context of the Battle of the Atlantic, where they played a critical role in disrupting Allied supply lines. Submarine warfare during World War II was a game of cat and mouse, with submarines attempting to avoid detection while hunting their prey. The experiences of U-47 and its crew were emblematic of the broader challenges and dangers faced by submarine crews during the war. Life aboard a U-boat was fraught with peril, from the constant threat of enemy attack to the harsh living conditions and psychological strain of long patrols in confined spaces. The effectiveness of U-47 and other submarines in the early years of the war forced the Allies to innovate and adapt. The development of new technologies and tactics, such as improved sonar and radar, convoy systems, and dedicated anti-submarine warfare ships and aircraft, eventually turned the tide in the Battle of the Atlantic. The experiences of U-47, both its successes and ultimate fate, reflect the evolution of submarine warfare during the war and the high stakes involved in the battle for control of the seas. The myth and reality of U-47. The story of U-47 has become a part of the mythology of World War II, particularly in Germany. The submarine and its commander, Gunther Prien, have been romanticized as symbols of German courage and military skill. However, it is important to distinguish between the myth and the reality. While U-47's achievements were indeed remarkable, they were part of a larger and often brutal campaign that had significant human costs. The U-boat campaign, while strategically important for Germany, was also a campaign of attrition that targeted civilian shipping as well as military vessels. The sinking of merchant ships led to significant loss of life and had a profound impact on the course of the war. The successes of U-47, including the sinking of the Royal Oak, must be understood in this context. They were acts of war that had both military and civilian consequences, contributing to the broader devastation of the conflict. The mythology surrounding U-47 also reflects the way in which war stories are often shaped by national narratives and the need for heroes. In Germany, Prien and U-47 became symbols of resistance against overwhelming odds, representing the idea that a small, determined force could strike a blow against a much larger adversary. This narrative was powerful during the war and has continued to influence how U-47 is remembered. Conclusion. U-47, under the command of Gunther Prien, holds a significant place in the history of World War II. Its daring raid on Scapa Flow and the sinking of HMS Royal Oak marked one of the early turning points in the naval conflict between Germany and Britain. The impact of this event went far beyond the immediate military consequences, shaking British morale and demonstrating the potency of the U-boat as a weapon of war. While U-47's story is often told in terms of its dramatic successes, it is also a story of the broader challenges and tragedies of submarine warfare. The submarine's eventual loss, and the fate of its crew, underscore the dangers faced by those who served in the U-boat fleet. The legacy of U-47 is a complex one, reflecting both the heroism and the harsh realities of war. It serves as a reminder of the strategic and psychological dimensions of naval warfare, and of the ways in which individual actions can have far-reaching consequences in the context of a global conflict. The story of U-47 is a testament to the courage of its crew, the strategic importance of the U-boat campaign, and the enduring impact of one of the most famous submarines in history.